Here's more information about what Google Slides can do for you and your students. In this presentation, I'm showing you a set of slides that I would share with my students. And in order to share these slides with my students, I would start by making a copy for each student using Google Classroom. In Google Classroom, when I create an assignment and I attach a Google Slides from Google Drive, it gives me a few options, and I would choose the option to make a copy for each student. This gives each student their own copy of Google Slides that they can edit, and they don't have access to each other's. They also don't have access to your master copy. So it makes a version for each of the students. So when they go through, and let's say you set up this page for them to take notes, they can edit their own version and have their own set of notes. So this would be an example of a fill in the blanks where students can go in and insert text boxes to type in the vocabulary that you are working with in class. This could be something done together, it could be something done independently. And you'll notice that if I try, I can't change these words because of the way that I've set up these slides. So students would only be able to add to the slide. They wouldn't be able to remove the words that you already put in there. I also like using this for sorting activities. And this can be used for all age levels and all subjects. Here I have this simple one where you could sort fall and winter activities. The boxes for fall and winter are fixed along with the title, but the items down here are things that students would be able to drag and drop. So they could sort through the activities. This would be great for spelling words. It could be used for science vocabulary. I mean, I think the options are endless if you are sorting. And in order to make the words in the sort box things that I could move around, but everything else fixed, is that I included this slide of sorting activities without the options, and I changed the background to look like these two boxes. So these aren't actually text boxes, they're embedded as part of the background. And then I could add these as individual text boxes on top, and students have the option to move these since they are not part of the background. I have another example of sorting activities that you could use even with students. This is a music example, but you could use it with any sort of pictures. So it doesn't have to be something that students read as a sorting activity. I thought this was a different type of sorting activity. It would be creating a timeline. Again, I fixed the line along with the months and the directions so that it is part of the background. And the boxes down here are something that you can move. So you could either ask students to move the items to the right month, or you might ask students to practice drawing a line from the month to the events. Those are two ways that this could work. You could also make the timeline something that is not kind of a multiple choice option where students go in and they plug in their own events. Could be great for some social studies units, could also be like a life cycle for science. There's a lot of options here too. Again, it's just fixing the parts that you don't want students to have interaction with as part of your background, and the parts that you would like students to interact with, you add that after on top of the background. You can have some open-ended ways to use these Google Slides that still make it interactive. I gave the directions, then students would be able to type in things that work with your question. Maybe this is a place for them to take extra notes based on classroom discussion, or add questions that they have, cite their sources. You can embed pictures. This map is not something that students can move or delete, but they can draw on top of it using the lines and shapes in Google Slides. So they could draw the equator, they could label the different continents and oceans. If you had something different for your class, you might have them circle pieces that you need them to identify. I also included a place where students can come in and add their own image. And one of the ways that students can add their own image is by going up here to Insert Image. If you'd like, they have a Search the Web option. Because this is Google Slides, they have right here Google Images Search. So if I looked up something that I could click on it and insert it, or you could have students do a Google search in a new tab and drag the image here, or if it's something that's saved on their computer, Google Slides works pretty well with the drag and drop methods. Other than using a copy for each student, Google Slides is great as an assessment tool. One of the reasons that I do like giving the students their own copy to interact with and navigate is that it's a great way to let them learn the tools with you, or let them practice using the shapes, the adding text boxes, changing font sizes, all of these things. They get the practice. Later, when you go to give them an assessment, they're already comfortable navigating Google Slides. So this is a few ways. There's so many more ways that you might have students use Google Slides to show what they've learned, to show mastery of a subject in different ways. They could be collaborating with others, and they could be showing their proficiency in using digital tools. A few more things that just include some tips and tricks to if you are new to navigating Google Slides or new to navigating it in this way. The toolbar up here at the top is where most of your functions live. There's text boxes, add an image, insert lines and shapes. If for some reason, let's say I'm clicked inside of a text box, you'll notice now that there are no buttons that say background, layout, and theme. That's because I've already selected this text box. So it gives me the text box options, like changing font sizes, font colors. If I want to find where to change my background, I just need to click in the background space and this button comes back up. The same with if I want to change font sizes, I need to click in the text box space and the text options will come up. When I created this Google Slides, I used the screenshot shortcuts that are on my MacBook which are Command-Shift-3, will give me a full screen option. So when I made things like this slide, the first time around I made it, I put the text boxes in, I drew the line, I labeled the months, and then I went to full screen, took a picture of it, then I created a new slide, added that image as a background onto a blank slide. You'll notice all of the slides that I've changed the background to make sure that they are secure happen to have this black line at the top and bottom. That's just how my screen shows when it's in full screen present mode when I take the pictures, but I happen to really like that as a tool because I know those have been fixed backgrounds that students can't edit. These other slides, I didn't make them the same way, so if students had this, they could move the text boxes around and they could delete some of the things that I would want them to have. When you're changing the background, the tips are here. I did include a message. Please make sure that you have a blank slide. If I were to change the background on this slide, because it has the theme with these stripes over here, it would just change the background of the white space, and that might cover up something that you're trying to use in your slide. So when you add a new slide, choose something with all white or all a single color, and then it will change the whole background and not just a portion of it. You'll notice in this slide set, I've used a unique theme. This theme comes from slidecarnival.com. You can browse that website if you are interested in adding some unique themes rather than the standard ones that Google Slides come with. I find this is a great way to set my slides apart from student-made slides. And there are other websites that do a similar thing, so I would try finding the ones that work for you. As I mentioned, if I am sharing a set of slides with students and I want them to interact with some pieces, but maybe not be able to edit everything, I change those backgrounds, and then I go to an assignment on Google Classroom, and it only works with an assignment for changing these settings. I want to make a copy for each student so that they're not all editing the same one and they're not just viewing it without the editing rights. Because of the way this video is set up, you didn't quite see the transitions and animations, but if you would like to add transitions and animations to kind of just build some suspense with your slides, maybe you want to show part of it and then have the answer slide in later, there are tools here to change those. And then to make this video, I've recorded using Screencast-O-Matic. If I wanted to show the transitions and animations during a screencast video, I would need to go up here, and instead of hitting present, which makes my presentation full screen, I use the downward arrow to make it presenter view, and that will only make it within my, which happens to be Chrome browser window. Screencast-O-Matic doesn't work super well with having a full screen presentation. I hope some of these tips helped you if you're trying to learn how to use Google Classroom and Google Slides with your students, both in person and remote.